Okay, so for this animation, we're going to be using the layered method, which means that we build up the animation slowly. So we don't try and pose all parts of the character at once. We just start with the basic parts of the legs and then slowly build up the parts of the walk from the contact position here, from this image from Richard Williams, which shows us the contact position, the passing position. So we're going to go contact, passing, and the down and the up. This is slightly exaggerated here, but it gives you an idea of the flow of the move that we're going to be creating. All right, so the first thing we need to do is to create this contact position. Okay, so and we're going to be using, I'm going to try and do both legs together and then offset them because that's a quicker way to work, and it makes sure that your legs are going to be exactly the same in terms of stride. Okay, so first thing I want to do is just very quickly put this base on a separate layer so that I can select these feet controls much more easily. So I'm going to go to layers, create layer from selected, and I'm just going to call it base so that I can remember. There we go. And set that to R. So now I can't actively select that. Now there are times where obviously you're going to need that controller, but for right now I actually don't want to be able to pick it up. So I am going to select both of these feet first, and I want to check my contact position. And so I want to just get the W key. Actually, I might just want to drop the hips slightly first, and you'll see why in a minute. So if I drop the hips to there, I can change it later, but I'm at frame 1, so I'm just going to save a key at frame 1. And then select these two little guys. I'm just using the perspective window just to check I've got them, but if I can select them here, it's going to be easier for me. I'm just making sure that I haven't got anything else. So then I'm going to pull, oh, I've got more. So if I just try that again, and if I just select and shift select the other one, so I've got both feet, and pull that forward to the start of the contact position, hit the S key. Again, I want to start working with the foot roll. So if I've got my bases selected, so if I just hit the roll and then middle mouse drag, I can pull that position up, hit an S key again, and then because I've done that roll, my legs are slightly out, so I want to hit the W key again and just pull the legs slightly forward. Now they don't want to be completely straight. There needs to be a little bit of give, otherwise the rig will pop as the leg moves. So we don't want to do that. So I've hit an S key for that. So I make sure I've got a key for the foot rolls. So now what I want to do is do the opposite pose. So if I go to frame 12, because I'm going to be using a march time. So if I just, hopefully I can just pick up the bottoms here. So if I just hit shift select those two, pull them back. Oh no, I've got more again. So it's probably wisest if I just select them here. There we go. Okay. And then slide them back. And again, I want to use the foot roll to give me a bit of a help. So I want something that looks a bit like that. If we look at our reference again very quickly, you can see we've got the ball of the foot on the ground and the rest of it lifted up, and then a slight bend in the back leg. So again, if I just hit the W key, make sure I've got these things selected. There we go. That'll do. Hit the S key. Put it back further. Again, I don't want it. I want it to be slightly broke there, not too straight. Hit the S key. Okay, and I want to save the position of the hips there as well. So now should have that. All right. So now I want to repeat that because I've only got one stride and I need 2 strides. So I'm going to go to frame 1. Once again, make sure I've got these 2 picked up. You may be more efficient at this than me, but I'm going to do it like this just for a second. I think I'm picking up these extra bits here. Let me put them on a layer. Okay, so I'm on frame 1, and then if I just middle mouse drag to frame 24, which is again is twice 12, and I hit the S key again. So now I should have, oh, I missed one. Okay, select, shift select, all the way to frame 24. Hit the S key. There we go. So now I've got the legs going forward and back together. So before we go ahead and offset these feet, I want to just do one more thing, and that's going to be really useful when we start to animate this character just moving forwards, walking forwards. We want to make sure that his feet are going to stick to the floor and not slide as he moves. And there's two ways that we do that. One is the movement of this base, but also we need to make sure that the when these feet are on the floor, that they are moving in a constant speed, which means that we need a linear curve. And at the moment, if I just have a look at this, pull the graph editor in, the curve looks like this. So that foot is going to start slow, speed up and slow down. So there's no way that foot's going to stick to the floor. So for each of these 2 feet, what I want to do is to make this line, when it's in contact with the floor here, see, that needs to be linear. So I'm going to just select this point here, hit the little linear button, and then select this point here, and then break the tangent, which is that button there, and just pull it straight. Okay, and do the same with the other one. Translation in Z. Select this. Be careful not to move these. Hit linear. I think this one. See, I just accidentally moved it. I'll just pick it up. Break the tangent. Line it up. That should be okay. So now we've got the foot lifting and coming back down again is fine, but where it's on the floor, it needs to be linear. Okay. Great. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this as a version 1. So file, save scene as. I've already got one saved here, but I need Tom Walker _ version 1. And the reason this is really useful is if you then make a mess of the next stage, you can easily go back to the one before. And what I want you to do is to save iteratively. So you save versions rather than saving over and over the same scene, because if it all gets messed up, you've lost your work, or if it crashes, you've lost your work. So make sure that you save versions. You can always go back and delete them later, but because the scene is referenced in, they'll stay nice and light anyway in terms of file size. So I'm just going to save that. Hit yes. Okay, so now I'm going to work on doing the passing position. Now, again, I'm going to stay with both feet together. So if I go around about frame 6, I think I might stay here now. I'll pop into the side if I need to. What I want to do now is to make sure these feet are flat on the ground. Okay, so if I go to foot roll and just bring them back. Actually, I do need to be on the side view just so I can make sure that they are completely contacting the floor. And also I want to make sure that my feet are fully contacting the floor around frame 3 as well, because when your foot, what you don't want to do is to have a slow drop of your foot from the contact position to the floor. It needs to snap down, because if you walk up and down, you'll see that your foot doesn't slowly lower itself, it goes pretty quickly. So I've gone to frame 3 here, and I'm just going to middle mouse drag that roll so that it goes straight down. Okay, so let's just scrub through that. That looks good. So it goes boink. All right. So now we want to go in and construct the passing position for the legs where there's a raise. So if I go to frame about 18 and lift these foot up. Okay, and I might just do a bit more on the roll. And then just drop that slightly. What I don't want is these feet to be picked up too high, because if you watch people walk, the pads actually go too high. So there we go. So we've got something that looks a bit like that. Okay, so now you can see what we need to do now is to work on the hips. So if I go to frame 1, we've got the hips. Frame 12, we've got the hips. We need to have them the same at frame 24. Hit the S key. And then at the passing position, around frame 6, we want to raise them. Raise the hips. So if I hit S key there, middle mouse drag to frame 18, hit there. So now I've got, play that through, I should have a nice up and down. There we go. Great. So what I want to do now is to cycle all that and then do an offset. Okay, I can do it in either way around, but because we've only got, we need to now offset these keys. But before I do that, I'm going to save this as version 2. Okay, save scene as version 2. Okay. Right, lovely. So if I get the graph editor up, this is where having 2 windows is so much easier. Sorry, 2 screens. Okay. So I am going to pick up 1 foot to offset. I'll pick this one. Okay, and you can see these are the keys that we've got here. So the first thing I want to do is I'll just cycle them. So if I go curves, pre-infinity cycle, that means everything before is going to cycle. And if I go keys, sorry, curves, post-infinity cycle, so everything's cycling afterwards. So what I want to do now is just to offset these keys. Oops, so if I go up to my time slider here, so at the moment I've got 24 in there. So what I want to do is to add 12 frames to that. So if I go plus equals 12, hit enter. So you can see they've all just jumped 12 frames rather than me having to drag them. Okay. So now with this foot, I want to do the same thing in terms of cycle, but I don't want to offset it. So if I just go curves, post-infinity cycle and curves, pre-infinity cycle. I've got my cycle there. Same with my hips. Okay, there's my hip control. Again, select the curves, curves, post-infinity cycle. Probably don't need a pre-infinity on this one, but okay. Now, if you, when you've loaded up your graph editor, you haven't got any cycle images here and it hasn't changed, it could be that your view is isn't set to infinity. So if you've got that, but you've put your cycle on, go to view, infinity, and you'll be able to see the cycle. Okay, lovely. So let's see what we've got. All right, so we've got a half decent basic bit of footwork there. And what's lovely is that we know that they're the same. All right, so in the next section, we're going to go in and start on the hips a little bit more. Okay, so I'm just going to save this again. It's version 3. You probably think I'm being paranoid, but this is so important. There we go.